What is happening, everybody? I am back on this Monday, July 14th, 2025. My name is Kevin Smith. Thank you all so much for tuning into Loud Majority Live. We got a jam-packed show for you guys today. Very good stuff. I am back from the Turning Point USA Student Action Summit down in Tampa, Florida. After being in the airport for about 9 hours, I made it back just for you guys. It's so nice to know that in 2025, we still have not figured out the concept of air travel. So I want to thank Delta for leaving me in the airport for damn near half a day. It's a big deal. It's not like I have anything else going on. So good to see everybody. What is happening. Also, real quick, I want to give a big shout out to everybody over at Turning Point USA for throwing an amazing event, as they always do. I will say that perhaps if we're going to have an event in July, maybe we don't have to do it in Florida. Maybe if we're going to do an event in July, we should do it in Alaska or Norway or, the North Pole. That would be a little bit better. Guys, as we get rocking, as we get it rolling here, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. Oh, and how could I forget? I got to meet one of our awesome viewers down there. Skylar, how are you? We had an awesome time down at Turning Point. We got to know each other. Really fun stuff. I got to meet one of her crazy-ass friends. That was a good time. So, see, if you come to these events, you get to meet me. And good things happen. Sometimes great things happen. Guys, we are going to be talking about the New York City mayor race right now because it is heating up. It is heating up here in the Big Apple. Heating up in the Big Apple as Andrew Cuomo has decided he is going to run as an independent candidate for New York City mayor. He actually proposed a unity pledge between Adams and Sliwa in order to block Mamdani. We're going to get into all the news, and I'm going to say some things that maybe some New Yorkers aren't going to like, but I've made a career off saying the thing that no one else is willing to say in public. But let's get to the news. Andrew Cuomo is expected to stay in the New York City mayor race as an independent candidate and will propose a pledge that could really reshape the field. The former governor plans to ask all the candidates, except Mamdani, to agree that whoever is not leading in the polls by mid-September drop out of the race. Cuomo says he will include himself in that agreement. The proposal would avoid splitting the vote among Mamdani's challengers and help the odds of defeating the socialist candidate in the general election. Cuomo's move comes a few weeks after he lost the Democratic primary to Mamdani. He said, "Our city is in crisis, and that's why I'm running for mayor of New York. We need a government to work. We need effective leadership," Cuomo said, according to News Nation. Mayor Eric Adams and the former federal prosecutor Jim Walden are also running as independents. Walden said he welcomed Cuomo's move, saying, "I am glad Cuomo has agreed to adopt my pledge." I guess Jim Walden said that's his pledge. "I hope Eric and Curtis sign on as well. Putting New York's best interests over personal ambitions is critical at this juncture." Republican nominee Curtis Sliwa, who has no plans to exit the race, criticized Cuomo and Adams, saying Andrew Cuomo lost his primary and hides in the Hamptons. Eric Adams skipped his and fled to Fort Lauderdale. Now, they're both running as independents to cling to relevancy. Sliwa said, "I am the only candidate with major party nomination and a 50-year track record of serving New Yorkers in a real path to victory." I'm not going anywhere. I'm in it until November 4th. This really kills me. Because it puts me in a position that I have to say a sentence that I don't want to say. Andrew Cuomo's right. This is not about winning, and it shouldn't be about winning. This is about stopping Zoran Mamdani. And I like Curtis a lot, I do. I just don't see the path to victory he claims there is. Perhaps somebody else can can, I don't know, enlighten me. Because if the other candidates sign on to the pledge, and let's just say, we'll use Jim Walden so I don't piss anybody off. Let's say Jim Walden gets 33% of the vote, and Mamdani gets 33% of the vote. That means Curtis Sliwa would have to get 34% of the vote. Last time he ran, he got 27%. So does anyone want to help me figure out where in the sweet hell he thinks he's getting that 7% of the vote? If the third candidate, be it Walden, Cuomo, or Adams, gets 33. Because if they only get 20, now we've got to make up even more points. Look, this brings me no great joy. Elections are not about principles. They are not about morals. They are not about policy. Elections are about numbers. If there's 3 votes out there, how do you get 2 of them? Numbers. That's all it's about. And I just don't see the numbers there for Curtis Sliwa. I just don't. That doesn't mean he's a bad guy. That doesn't mean he's a bad... I like him a lot. He's always been very good to us, the Lau majority. Many of the New York City Republicans have been as well. I just don't see a path forward. I don't. And if Walden, Adams, and Cuomo agree to the proposal, there's even less of a path forward. If all three of them, Mamdani, Curtis, making 5, stay in the race, maybe there's a path. I still don't see that path. But the more people there are in the race that can dilute the Democratic vote, can split the Democratic vote, give Curtis a better chance. But if Adams signs on to the Cuomo-Walden pledge, I don't know. I just don't see it. And it brings me no joy to see it. All right? I would love to have Mayor Curtis Sliwa. I really would. Personally, I think the best outcome could be, and I've said this on numerous shows before, is that Eric Adams, who's someone who's very passionate about criminal justice and public safety, sits down with Eric Adams. I don't know, deputy police commissioner, commissioner for public safety, something in that realm, so that he can focus on the things that he wants to focus on. I'm going to catch all sorts of hell for this one. All sorts of hell for this one. But I'm going to say the thing out loud. We're now getting reporting that Soros-backed NGOs have dumped some $30 to $40 million into the Working Families Party to assist Zohran Mamdani. That's one organization dumping $40 million into one race. Where's that money coming from? Andrew Cuomo's going to be flush with money. Eric Adams is going to be flush with money. And now Zohran is too. I don't even want to look at my comment section on my local shows right now. It's just a reality. Some people aren't going to like it. Got 27% last time. I don't understand. After 4 years of more Republicans leaving the 5 boroughs, where people think that number is going to go up. Show me the data. Show me the numbers. You can't. It's all emotion. It's all emotion. My brother's a great guy, too. He's also not going to be mayor of New York. If people want to stop Zohran Mamdani in New York, then at least 3 of the candidates are going to have to drop out of the race. And one of them has to be Curtis. I'm sorry, it just is. It just is. Some people aren't going to like it. And sure enough, the protests have been ramping up in New York City today outside of the immigration court. Here was freedomnews.tv.
No peace, no justice, no peace, no power here. No power here. Immigrants are welcome here. No power here. Immigrants are welcome here. Immigrants are welcome here. Remember, no ICE, no volunteers.
This is the New York City Police Department. You are unlawfully obstructing pedestrian traffic. You are ordering disorderly conduct. This is the New York City Police Department. You are unlawfully obstructing pedestrian traffic. You are in charge of disorderly conduct.
No power here.
And for ICE to kidnap and sell into slavery.
On black and brown people
Nothing
and
wrong.
makes this
This is a complete violation of U.S.
of people for the Iowa
law
to kill
in all proper states.
and immigrants to kidnap.
For some reason, they're yelling about Palantir. I don't really understand why, but naturally, they're having their immigration protest with their keffiyehs on because we got to make sure we get Palestine in there somewhere. We got to make sure we wiggle that in somehow, some way. Of course, this comes after a weekend of raucous immigration protests, raids all over the country. One in particular is getting a whole lot of attention. One is getting a lot of attention after 350 illegal immigrants were arrested in a California ICE raid at a weed farm. Now, there's a bunch here that I got to go over because in just a minute, I'm going to play you clips of Abby Phillips from CNN basically not being able to agree that child labor is bad because Trump is doing it. But let's get to the big story. First, a child sex predator was among the 361 illegal immigrants who were arrested in raids at 2 marijuana farms in Southern California last week. But Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom is very upset about this. The feds also rescued 14 migrant children who are working in the fields, according to the Department of Homeland Security. One of the youngest was just 14 years old. And a disturbing situation has prompted an investigation into possible child labor violations, according to U.S. Border Protection Commissioner Rodney Scott on Thursday. Assistant DHS Secretary Tricia McLaughlin said that the conditions for the children looked exploitative and seemed like forced child labor and potential human trafficking or smuggling while facing assault and gunfire. She added, as Secretary Noem stated, this is quickly becoming one of the largest operations since President Trump took office. But Abby Phillip doing yeoman's work, tying herself up in knots, trying to say, well, it's not this, it's not that, meh. But Jillian Michaels, the fitness instructor, was not having any of it. Because what I find so interesting about this new crop of, I don't know what you'd call it, political influencers, we'll say, political pundits, where they're not like, the former deputy chief of staff to some senator you'd never heard of. They're a lesbian fitness instructor who used to be on NBC. When they go on shows like CNN, they're not taking any of the crap. They're not taking any of the wordsmithing. And here was Abby Phillips tying herself up in knots, but Jillian Michaels just wasn't having any of it.
Let's look at what just happened at the Glass House marijuana farm. Here's what people don't want to see. on the other side. They don't want to see people throwing rocks into the cars of federal agents. They don't want to hear that someone supposedly opened fire on them. They also don't want to learn that there are a bunch of kids there that are undocumented or unaccompanied, and they think this is crazy talk, and we should be focusing on that. For one thing, how did those kids get there?
Well, I just want to add one thing. We do have to go, but the UFW, the United Farm Workers, put out a statement about this. They said the UFW can confirm farm workers were critically injured yesterday during chaotic raids in Ventura County, California. Others, including U.S. citizens, remain totally unaccounted for. Many workers, including U.S. citizens, were held by federal authorities at the farm for 8 hours or more. U.S. citizen workers report only being released after they were forced to delete photos and videos of the raid from their phones. They also added that farm work is exempted from child labor laws. So
you're telling me undocumented?
I'm not saying the undocumented. I'm not talking about
at a marijuana farm.
I'm not talking about the undocumented part, but according to this statement, in this country, not just at farm, not at marijuana farms, at all
semantics.
farms.
Look at the reality of what we're talking about. How did
an
unaccompanied, undocumented 14-year-old in the middle of the day?
I believe, and many people might believe, children should be subject to child labor laws.
Absolutely.
But it's true in this country that when it comes to agricultural work, they're not. And that includes marijuana farms. So the legality of their status is a separate issue. But the fact of children being there is not actually something that is necessarily illegal.
I have a really hard time believing
So there's that. So it's not unusual for there to be teenagers and working in a farm.
A 14-year-old can work at a marijuana growing?
It doesn't matter whether it's a marijuana farm or an apple farm.
A kid can't work at a bar.
It's agriculture. They're not smoking
If that's the law, that's outrageous.
They're cultivating it.
The
point is, this incident, and we're still learning a lot more about it, was very dangerous and put a lot of people, including ICE officers and those immigrants, in danger.
It is so watching her tie herself up in knots to not admit we have 14-year-old undocumented kids working at a weed farm. So now, Democrats, not only have you backed yourself into the corner where you have to defend importing slave labor to mow your lawn and clean your pool and raise your children, but now you've got them picking your weed. Not weeds. You've got them picking your pot. Democrats, keep going. Keep going, guys. And Democrats just cannot say, yeah, you know what? Trump might be right about this one. He might be right about this one. Because not only are we arresting child sex predators, like Roman... Yeah, I can't even say this guy's last name, but he's a Mexican national who was previously convicted of kidnapping and the attempted rape and child molestation, according to DHS. He was deported in 2006 and then came back to work on a marijuana farm, which is also employing children. Real quick question to the United Farm Workers Union. Are you employing 14-year-olds? Are you employing 14-year-olds, United Farm Workers Union? Or are those 14-year-olds not members of your union? Because then you would be violating your own union bylaws, which, of course, unions love to do when it suits them. You know, hey, guys, look, we've been on the show for 15 minutes, so now I'm going to take a 15-minute coffee break. 14-year-olds working at apparently a union shop. Of course, the United Farm Workers Union was started by Cesar Chavez, a terrorist, who routinely just broke up non-union farms by beating the crap out of all of their workers. That's a real good way to boost your union numbers. He's the one who very famously ran around protesting, and screaming, "Si si puede! Yes, we can!" Yeah, and then you beat people with chains in the middle of the night. I could do a whole show on that guy. Another illegal immigrant that was picked up during this raid was Juan Dutare Velasquez, who had a DUI and a rape conviction. Well, lovely, lovely. We got to make sure we let that guy into the country. Because if we don't, how will we ever cure cancer? And I can't believe I'm going to say this sentence. I'm saying a lot of things today I never thought I would say. But Mark Cuban actually gave the Democrats some pretty good advice. We'll get to that in 1 second. Before we do that, Old Glory Bank.
When big banks decide who gets access to America's financial systems and who doesn't, who do you think gets left out? Middle Americans who proudly wave their pro-America values. Cancel culture in banking is corrosive. It limits your participation in a vibrant, free market economy. Fortunately, you can fight back. You now have the opportunity to invest in the bank that's investing in a fair American banking system, one based in freedom. Ownership in Old Glory Bank, the pro-America online bank, is here. Old Glory Bank is a full-service FDIC-insured bank that's the alternative to overreaching, un-American big banks. We stand for privacy, security, and liberty. We stand for freedom, family, faith, and the flag. We stand for all the values you stand for, and for the values big banks can't stand. So help keep banking in the hands of Main Street, not Wall Street. To invest in Old Glory Bank, go to oldglorybank.com.
Guys, raiding marijuana farms is pretty difficult, but do you know what's not? Switching your bank over to oldglorybank.com. Guys, head on over to oldglorybank.com and lock in some of those interest rates before Jerome Powell wises up and lowers them. Guys, lock them in today. Head on over to oldglorybank.com. That's oldglorybank.com. So, Mark Cuban, who has been a royal pain in the ass for the last, decade, actually had some great advice for Democrats. I can't believe I'm going to say this. Now, the Democrats can't do this, so I'm not worried about, bolstering the message. What he said was, Democrats ought to say yes. Let's come up with a list of the worst people in this country and then go after them. Like the FBI has a top 10 most wanted list. Make a top 100 worst illegal immigrants, and let's go after them and come on the side of Trump on this one. But they can't do that.
They should be putting Tom Homan on blast, saying, okay, the FBI has their top 10 most wanted list, right? Let's just get this right. Homan, don't, do it right. List the top 100. Let's go after them. List the top 1,000, criminals that are here that need to be deported. We'll all help you. But the Democrats would never say something to the fact, we'll help you. They only have to do something that's the antithesis of what Trump says and does. You've never heard a Democrat say in the past 7 months, yeah, okay, I don't like it, but this is a step in the right direction. We're going to help, because I think the better path is for the Democrats to bring attention to the bad things and the good things and say on the good things, we'll help you, right? Which they would never say, because that disarms. Whenever you're in a sales environment and you say something positive about your competition, it's disarming. Yeah, we're better, but these guys, that's not so bad. They're trying really hard. Okay, Tom Homan, we don't want criminals. If Venezuela and Colombia opened up their jails and sent all their worst criminals to us, we don't want them here either. If MS-13 has 173 gang members here from wherever, we don't want them here either. Post that list. And you know what? Chuck Schumer, I'm Chuck Schumer. I'm going to help you get rid of them. I'm going to post all those lists everywhere. We're all going to go after those bad guys together because they shouldn't be here. Now you disarm him. Now you disarm the Republicans who, think that that the Democrats can't get anything right. You do things that you can undermine. Undermining in the Democrats' perspective is always, you're wrong, it's Trump, you're wrong. The T word, Trump, is a trigger word, and you can't just always use that in a negative line. The best way to convince people to reconsider is to say, okay, they're doing this. Okay, we'll help them. But let's go, what about these people they're pulling off the streets in black hoodies, right? Post all the bad guys. We'll use our resources. Every single sanctuary city is going to, I'm going to make sure that they all allocate resources to go after the Tom Homan 100. And when one of them's off, you put another one on, we'll go after that one. Let's get those criminals out of here like they deserve to be.
Wow. A completely rational take. A completely rational take from Mark Cuban. Why? Because look, I don't like Mark Cuban. I break his balls on Twitter all the time, and it's really fun when he responds. But business people are not issue-oriented. They are not problem-oriented like politicians are. They are solution-oriented. And that is just what is different between a politician and a businessman. It is a solution-based system when you run a business. You run a business, you got a problem, you fix it, you move on to the next problem. In politics, you find a problem and you harp on it, you harp on it, you harp on it, and you never really ever get anything done. And that's why I think people are so shocked at the Trump administration, because they're actually getting a problem resolved and then moving on to the next one. Many Democrats will say it's called flooding the zone. Put so much into the ether that the media can't keep up. No, it's that when you solve an issue, you move on to the next one. You don't keep harping on it all day and all night. But that's what they're doing over there on CNN. And then when somebody points out the very obvious fact that it turns out Gavin Newsom doesn't really care if there's child labor laws being violated in his state, because many of the people who own these marijuana farms are Gavin Newsom's biggest donors, well, they get very, very upset about that. Here's Scott Jennings.
It's the type of thing that the judge is saying cannot happen anymore.
Yeah, it sounds like, they're going to continue to fight this out in court. Obviously, the administration has a point of view here. It's different than what the court said. I just want to go back to the thing I was most concerned about in reading all of this today, and that's that these little children are found on these farms. I mean, are we really saying here in the year 2025, well, we have to maintain the status quo of illegal immigration in the United States because we need little children to pick marijuana in California? It's like blowing my mind.
No, Scott, I think you're making a really, frankly, it's a very important point. I mean, the fact that young children, immigrants or not, are working on these farms, whether they're forced to because they have to make money for their families, or maybe they,
for whatever here to do that,
or for whatever reason. I totally agree that is something that we as a country need to address. But I think you have to acknowledge that there has been no effort made by policymakers, Republican or Democrat, to address the driving causes of that, which are the employers willing to employ these children. Who is employing a 16-year-old undocumented immigrant?
Yeah,
and
I agree. I mean, one of the farms that was raided, I read, is even a Gavin Newsom donor. I think the governor of California should ask why you're doing these things. And I don't have a problem going after employers.
By the way,
I really don't.
I know you want to make it about California, but it's not about California.
Well, in this case,
there are more than a dozen states in this country allow children to work on farms. Who do you think those children are? Those children are more than likely going to be immigrants or undocumented immigrants.
But the cases we're dealing with today were
I'm just saying it's not a California thing. It's it's a United States of America thing.
And if we're so concerned about children, Scott, there are parents who are being kidnapped by this agency where their children are in school. There are parents who are being kidnapped by this agency whose children are literally dying. And so if we're so concerned about children, maybe we should stop kidnapping people while their children are dying and their sole caretakers are being deported by ICE. There are multiple cases where they are kidnapping people out of hospitals.
What does kidnapping
mean? It means a government agency has been given license to disappear people. That is what it means.
What does that mean? So you mean an ICE agent takes an illegal immigrant into custody?
We got to squeeze in a quick
but you don't
break.
know if they're an illegal immigrant. That is my point. I don't use that term. You don't know what their status is. Okay. And so if you can just come and snatch somebody off the street and say you don't get due process, and that means I'm not a citizen. It is a disgusting thing that we're watching, and anybody who defends it is disgusting and despicable and deplorable.
Well, I guess I'm disgusting, despicable, and deplorable. I don't know who you are. You got your 5 minutes in the sun, lady, and made a complete ass out of yourself. But it's all emotion. Scott Jennings asks a very logical-based question. Why is it that a Gavin Newsom donor can employ illegal immigrant children to pick his marijuana? And then some lady starts yelling about kidnapping and disappearing and people are dying. Who's dying? People. Someone out there in the ether has died. Trump's fault. Makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, but that's what Democrats do. It's all emotion. All of it is emotion. But in California, that wasn't the only place in which we saw a tremendous amount of ICE raids, or at least over the course of the last several months. We got to see it right here on Long Island, too, which we're going to get to in 1 second. Before we do that, here is Jeremy.
Hey everyone, sorry to barge in like this, but I do want to talk to you about this opportunity for 45% off of Everyday Dose coffee. And this isn't just your regular coffee, folks. If you're like me, you love your coffee routine. I've loved my coffee routine since I was probably 16 years old. Unfortunately, as I've gotten older, some of the coffee that I love doesn't love me back and does cause bloating, does cause jitters, can only drink so much a day, and there's really only so much I can do with it. Now, Everyday Dose is known as Coffee Plus Benefits. And what I mean by that, folks, is A, there is an ingredients booklet in there that gives you a ton of different recipes on how to make cold brew coffees of all different kinds, lattes, different hot coffees, and more. But the greatest thing about Everyday Dose is it is known as Coffee Plus Benefits, meaning that you're going to have 100% Arabica coffee, and you're going to also have lion's mane, chaga, collagen protein, and nootropics that keep your brain focused. No jitters, no heart palpitations, and a ton of different recipes. And you're going to get a frother, a tumbler, a box set with a bunch of different gifts in it, an ingredients booklet for recipes, coffee, and more for only $27, folks. 45% off by going to everydaydose.com/LFATV. That's everydaydose.com/LFATV. Why not expand your experiences with coffee? That's everydaydose.com/LFATV.
Guys, head on over to everydaydose.com/LFATV. So we saw massive ICE raids over the course of the last 5 months here on Long Island. Our Nassau County Jail has held more than 1,400 migrants in 5 months with the partnership of ICE. Nassau County has detained more than 1,400 illegal immigrants for Immigration and Customs and Border Enforcement since February, as local cops now prepare to help the Trump administration with their mass deportation efforts. The migrants that have been held at the East Meadow Jail under the partnership with the feds announced by Bruce Blakeman. You know, we backed the Bruce here on this show. The collaboration set aside 50 cells in the lockup with the Trump administration's migrant crackdown. If they're committing crimes in the metropolitan area, then they are a threat to Nassau County. Yes, it is so refreshing to hear someone on Long Island say the very obvious. Because you see, here's what happens, and I'm sure this happens in your major metropolitan area just like it happens here. You get crazy people in places like New York City who implement laws that nobody asked for and implement policies that only hurt the citizens. When those people no longer have the resources in that city, they move out to the suburbs, like we're seeing out here on Long Island. Illegal immigrants got a lot of money from the city of New York. And it only cost about $15 basically to go the entire length of Long Island from Penn Station. So they come out here and they commit their crimes and they do whatever the hell it is they're going to do. Luckily, we have Bruce Blakeman actually doing something about it, and I wish more local representatives would get on board. We saw Pam Bondi. I know we're a little mad at Pam at the moment, with good reason, but she was out here on Long Island touting the work done by Bruce Blakeman in keeping Nassau County safe. Somebody else, in terms of immigration, who's having an incredibly good week is Tom Homan, who sat down with a reporter from Politico and absolutely dropped an elbow on her from the top rope. Guys, I say this all the time, and people get, why do you even go on CNN? Why would anybody go on one of these leftist outlets? Because it turns out the majority of the people who report the news on the left don't have any idea what they're talking about. And it's up to people like us to set the record straight so that their viewers can understand all of what is happening here. Here was Tom Homan correcting the record with a reporter from Politico.
I think one of the things that's had a lot of folks up in arms is that ICE agents, unlike other law enforcement, have been masked to protect their identities. That's not something that we've really had on this scale in this country. Do you?
Well, we never had the scale of attacks on ICE. We have now up 700% attacks on ICE. Doxing against ICE agents.
Well, you've had increased attacks on police officers as well in the wake of the defund the police movement too, but they haven't put masks on.
You name a police agency that has a 700% increase in assaults. Name one.
I haven't looked at that data. Yeah.
You won't find one. The attacks on ICE is unprecedented, 700% increase, and we're not even talking about the doxing of agents, their spouses, and their children. So they're wearing masks to help give them some sort of protection. But the same people that are complaining about ICE wearing masks, have they ever said anything about BLM protesters wearing masks?
Well, I mean, that leads me to the question that, like, do you have concerns that it...
Let me answer, though. Let me answer.
Yeah, okay.
Have they ever say anything about the mass protesters that became criminals on college campuses that threatened Jewish students and took over buildings, destroyed property? They were all wearing masks. Did anybody pass legislation saying they can't wear a mask during a protest? No. We're talking about law enforcement.
Oh, I think there are a lot of people who are upset about that. But then,
have you seen any legislation proposed to remove masks from protesters that become criminals, that take over college campuses? You haven't. Look at the BLM protesters, how many lives were lost, how much property was stolen. They're all wearing masks. Did anybody propose legislation saying it's illegal to wear a mask in public while you're protesting? No, there isn't. This is attacking ICE officers. The Democrats want to vilify men and women of ICE and boards. And I said from day one, when President Trump won office and I came back and said, now the vilification starts, right? Now it's the racist ICE, the racist board for simply enforcing the law to deal with the repercussions of Biden administration's open borders, where millions of criminals and public safety threats were released in this country. So I support ICE wearing masks. You're still wearing insignia. You got HSI, ERO, or FBI, DEA, but there needs to be some level of protection because the tax is unprecedented. 700%, for God's sake. And what I want to remind people is, I was an ICE agent. These men and women at ICE, they're mothers and fathers too. They don't hang their heart on a hook every day and they come to work. They're not the beast. They're enforcing a law. They're trying to make this country safe again, and they're being vilified for it and attacked for it. And we're not going to tolerate zero tolerance on this.
Zero tolerance on this. Of course, this liberal reporter from Politico doesn't have any of the facts. All she has is the narrative. I'm sure she has done almost no reporting on the fact that somebody created an app in which you can basically dox ICE agents and nothing will happen to you about it. As a matter of fact, CNN went so far as to promote the use of this app in which you can dox ICE agents. But nothing from the left on that. Somehow that didn't make it into the Politico reporter's narrative. Never made it in. We've got the story from the Post-Millennial about CNN being under fire for promoting the ICE Block app, allowing users to track and avoid ICE agents. Corporate media outlet CNN is being accused of promoting the ICE Block app, a software designed to alert people to the presence of nearby immigration authorities. When the Trump White House said the app would be encouraging violence towards ICE agents, and as ICE has experienced a rise in attacks against personnel as they carried out their enforcement, the app, designed by Joshua Aaron, is said to designed to alert people to nearby ICE sightings. Here is, do I have the CNN clip? Yes, this doesn't seem like they're, in this clip, it doesn't seem like CNN is all too upset that this app even exists. Here is John Berman, I should say, from CNN.
As the Trump administration steps up ICE raids and mass deportations, one tech developer is pushing back with an app designed to track ICE activity in real time. It's called ICE Block, and it's controversial to say the least. CNN's Claire Duffy is with us now. How does this work, Claire, and what are the legal implications?
Yeah, John, I talked with Joshua Aaron, who is the longtime tech worker who developed this platform, and he said he really wants it to be an early warning system for people about the location of Immigrations and Customs Enforcement officers. So he says he does not want people interfering with those officers' activity, but he does want people to be able to avoid them altogether if they want. So you open the app, it looks like a map, and users can tap the map to report an ICE sighting in their area, and then everybody who uses the platform within 5 miles of that sighting will get a push alert. This is a free iPhone app. It is anonymous. Aaron says he doesn't collect any user data. And what I think is really interesting about this in this moment is we've seen so many of the biggest leaders in tech supporting President Trump, but Aaron is sort of an example of the fact that there are people within the tech industry who are really resistant to Trump's policies. I asked him what he would say to those tech leaders who, for example, were at the inauguration. Here's what he told me. Take a listen.
I understand that you have shareholders to report to. I understand that you have employees that need their paychecks. But at what point do you say enough is enough?
And John, I should say that ICE did not respond when I asked them about this platform and about Aaron's opposition to their activity.
Well, obviously, we've got to listen to the experiences of a tech bro who, I got to say, judging by that video, lives in a pretty damn nice house. I'm sure he wants those illegal immigrants to come over and clean his beautiful apartment, whenever he calls upon them. But that's what the tech bros do. CNN didn't seem all too upset that this app exists. I don't know, maybe it's just me. But over the weekend, we're going to talk about it in just a second, Tom Homan also had some fun with some liberal protesters. And I want to say, a liberal protester. I don't have this guy's photograph up just yet. But I have had some encounters with this little fat guy many times. He goes to conservative events, films them, and then posts it. He's actually got like 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. But he gets away with murder. He gets away with sneaking away anywhere. He confronted Tom Homan at Turning Point USA, and Tom Homan again dropped the hammer on him.
We left thousands of empty ICE beds at $127 a night, empty. Thousands of them. They released them to NGOs at $500 a night. Why did they do that? Because they knew if they're in ICE detention, they get a hearing within 40 days, 90% lose their case, they get sent home. That is not what they wanted. They're playing the long game. Let's release them in the community. Wait 3 or 5 years. Pardon me?
Are you an MS-13 member? It says so.
Hey, that's okay. That's okay. I got a question. No. I got a question for you. Why don't you come up here and hand me that picture? Bring it. USA. All right. You got morons like this all over the country. This guy wouldn't like the surface nation. This guy ain't got the balls to be an ICE officer. He hasn't got the balls to be a Border Patrol agent. This guy lives in his mother's basement. The only thing that surprises me, you don't have purple hair and a nose ring. Get out of here, you loser. And you're such a badass, meet me off stage in 13 minutes and 50 seconds.
Now, I want to be gentle when I say this. That little guy gets away with murder because he has Down syndrome. So no one ever questions him. But I have personally had to remove him from an event in New Hampshire. This guy travels all over the country. He has, for anybody who was with us, and that's not me, I'm not being rude, I'm not calling him a derogatory name. He has Down syndrome. So he's very unassuming. and gets to sneak into places without most people noticing. I'm not like being rude about this. We had to throw him out of a protest in Lower Manhattan outside of the courthouse because he was interrupting a news conference. We had I personally had to throw that guy out of a Matt Gaetz event in Manchester, New Hampshire. It wasn't in Maine, no. It was on the west side of New Hampshire. I don't know my way around New Hampshire. It was about an hour outside of Manchester. I had to throw that guy. He goes everywhere. He's just a giant pain in the ass. He's also about this big. I swear, he's like 3.5 feet tall. Very annoying guy. But he wasn't the only liberal protester at Turning Point USA. There was about 40 people protesting outside of Turning Point USA. Students at Turning Point USA's Student Action Summit in Tampa, Florida. I went out and filmed a little bit of it, but I had to go back inside because it was 100 degrees outside, and I just wasn't gonna do that. But there was one good one, a guy who stopped his car, and then he FA'd, and then he FO'd. We'll show you that in 1 second. Before we do that, guys, head on over to loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. Sign up for the newsletter. Check out our shop. That is the best way to support this show and everything we've got going on over here. Check out your summer collection. Giddy up. Let's go. Good things are coming on the Loud Majority side. We got a bunch of stuff there. Half off, guys. Big half off sale. You can also use promo code RUMBLE to get 20% off everything on the website. That's promo code RUMBLE to get 20% off everything on the website in addition to the half off sale. That's the best way to support this show. You can also do so by hitting the donate button at the very top of the screen. Consider becoming a monthly donor over here at the Loud Majority. That's I can't tell you how much we appreciate that. loudmajorityusa.com. That's loudmajorityusa.com. So that wasn't the only liberal protester outside of Turning Point USA. Some guy got out of his car, and it really, really, really didn't go well for him.
Run your shit in the car! Do it, Maga, do it! Do it, pussy! Come on!
This is amazing. Crazy leftist. This is a great scene. You got people praying here.
I'm just here. I want it. I don't know. Yeah, you're gonna crash. You're gonna crash, bitch.
It's coming out. Look at you, bro. Come on. Where you at? Let's go. Hey, get off me. Let's go. Come on. Steal your car.
Hey, come over here.
Yeah. Oh, wow. He's fighting. Now he's fighting. Yeah. There we go. Hey. Yeah. There we go. There we go. Yeah.
USA. Look what I got on it.
They got him. They got him. The cops got him. Law enforcement sending a strong message today.
I believe that was filmed by Kevin Posobiec. Could have that wrong, but Frontlines picked that one up. I got to watch that happen in real time. It was funny as hell. Funny as hell to watch it happen in real time. Once again, big shout out to everybody over at Turning Point USA for putting on a phenomenal event. As always, guys, if they're doing something in your area, make sure you guys make it down there. Great people doing great work, always. Oh, I think their next event is in December in Arizona. Be there or don't get to see me. Be there or you're going to miss me again. Guys, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up button. Share the video out all over the place. We got some good news coming out of Trump's NATO conversation that he had today. We're going to get to that in 1 second. Before we do, head on over to lfatv.us. That's lfatv.us. That's your home base, your mothership, your landing pad for all things LFA-TV related. Check out the LFA-TV store. And while you guys are there, consider becoming a monthly donor over at LFA-TV. That's the best way to support this network and everything we've got going on. So, over the weekend, some news dropped that we would be sending more weapons to Ukraine. And this obviously got the MAGA base very, very upset. Whoa! I thought we were done doing that. I thought we were done sending weapons to Ukraine. Well, Donald Trump did his best to debunk that myth outside of Air Force One. Here was Trump.
I'm going to have a meeting with the Secretary General who's coming in tomorrow. But we basically are going to send them various pieces of very sophisticated military. They're going to pay us 100% for them. And that's the way we want it. And we've been trying to get that again. I don't think Biden ever asked for it. We're in for about $350 billion. Europe is in for $100 billion. That's a lot of money, 100, but they should be in actually for more than us. So as we send equipment, they're going to reimburse us for that equipment. Doesn't that sound good? That's the way it should have been a long time ago. I haven't agreed on the number yet, but they're going to have some because they do need protection. But the European Union is paying for it. We're not paying anything for it, but we will send it. It'll be business for us, and we will send them Patriots, which they desperately need, because Putin is really surprised. A lot of people, he talks nice, and then he bombs everybody in the evening. So there's a little bit of a problem there, and I don't like
some crappy video there, but debunking the myth that we are giving weapons to Ukraine. No, NATO is buying weapons, which they can then give to Ukraine, which I have absolutely no problem with whatsoever. We do make the best weapons in the world, and they should be purchasing them, particularly after they hit their new goal of 5% of GDP going to NATO. Trump sat down with the Secretary General of NATO today in the Oval Office and discussed this meeting. Before we get to that, guys, MyPillow.
I'm excited to announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed, because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
Guys, head on over to MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD. That's MyPillow.com, promo code LOUD for up to 80% of everything on the website. So, Trump explained the new weapons deal that they're going to have with NATO today in the Oval Office.
We've made a deal today, and I'm going to have Mark speak about it, but we've made a deal today where we are going to be sending them weapons, and they're going to be paying for them. The United States will not be having any payment made. We are not buying it, but we will manufacture it, and they're going to be paying for it. Our last meeting of a month ago was very successful in that they agreed to 5%, which is more than $1 trillion a year, so they have a lot of money. And these are wealthy nations. They have a lot of money, and they want to do it. They feel very strongly about it, and we feel strongly about it, too. But we're in for a lot of money, and we don't want to do anymore, and we can't. But we make the best, and we're going to be sending the best to NATO, and in some cases to maybe, at Mark's suggestion, if we go to Germany, where they're going to send early on missiles, and they'll be replaced, and NATO is going to take care of it. It's going to be coordinated by NATO, and they're going to work very much with Matt Whitaker, who's right here, who's a great ambassador, and Matt's going to be coordinated. You better do a good job, Matt.
I will.
But Matt's going to coordinate. He's a very talented guy. He's going to coordinate everything.
So I have no problem with NATO buying their own weapons from us. No problem with it. And then what they want to do with it is up to them. You want to buy our weapons and stick them up your ass? I don't care. You want to give them to Ukraine? I don't care. And I've said it on this show before, and people didn't really seem to understand what I meant by this. It is time for NATO to start paying us to defend them. And I think they're starting to get the message. Guys, before we wrap up today, we got a message from Lee, the legend Zeldin, about more government transparency coming real soon.
Concerned Americans have urgent and important questions about geoengineering and contrails. The American public deserves and expects honesty and transparency from their government when seeking answers. But for years, people who asked questions in good faith were dismissed, even vilified by the media and their own government. That era is over. The Trump EPA is committed to total transparency. As a result, I tasked my team at EPA to compile a list of everything we know about contrails and geoengineering for the purpose of releasing it to you now publicly. In other words, I want you to know everything I know about these topics and without any exception. Instead of simply dismissing these questions and concerns as baseless conspiracies, we're meeting them head on. We did the legwork, looked at the science, consulted agency experts, and pulled in relevant outside information to put these online resources together. Everything we know about contrails to solar geoengineering will be in there. That means anyone who reads through this information will know as much about these topics as I do as EPA administrator. To anyone who's ever looked up to the streaks in the sky and asked, what the heck is going on? Or seen headlines about private actors and even governments looking to blot out the sun in the name of stopping global warming? We've endeavored to answer all of your questions at the links on your screen. In fact, EPA shares many of the same concerns when it comes to potential threats to human health and the environment, especially from solar geoengineering activities. The enthusiasm for experiments that would pump pollutants into the high atmosphere has set off alarm bells here at the Trump EPA. Prior to now, EPA has never been this proactive to raise awareness about concerns with geoengineering and to stop this activity from being scaled up. This is what it looks like when government actually listens to the will of the people and doesn't try to squash it. You can always trust this administration and this EPA to take your concerns seriously.
That's my friend. That's my friend. Thank you, Administrator Zeldin. I can't wait to dive in to the chemtrails and the geoengineering stuff. Look, I've touted Lee Zeldin on this show for almost 5 years now. And stuff like this is why. Guys, Will Johnson's coming up next. I want to thank everybody so much for tuning in. I will catch you guys back live tomorrow. Until then, everybody, stay loud.